Should I flip a house or rent it out? This is a question that I often ask even myself on properties. In this episode, what we're going to be talking about is what's the highest and best use of the property. Then I'm going to lay out the pros and cons of fixing and flipping or holding. Stay tuned till the end because I have a free gift that you're not going to want to miss out on. A couple of simple things to look at when you're looking at should you fix and flip or should you rent it out. You got to look at the return on investment and return on time. So what I like to do is I like to figure out what my profit margin would be if I just fix and flip the property. Also, let's just say I fix the property up and then I end up refinancing it. What would my mortgage be on that property versus what I could rent it for? What are my margins on that? Something key that a lot of people lose sight of is if you're just flipping properties all the time, guess what you're not doing? You're not saving for the future and building a residual income. Look, that's just a job. What you need to do is figure out how many properties you want to own and work towards that goal. So fixing and flipping, yes, is essential, but so is buying and holding as well. So you have to find that right mix. This is what we're going to explore on how to maximize those things. Let's talk about renting for a minute. You could look at just renting it as far as set it and forget it. That's just finding a tenant that's going to rent that property. And what is your profit margin? Let's just go through something real quick. Let's say your mortgage is $1,500 a month. If you're only able to rent it for $1,600, $1,700, is your time, energy, and effort worth the $100 or $200 extra per month? Personally, I'm probably going to flip that property if my margin's anywhere significantly over that. We'll get back to that in a second. As far as your profit margin on your what? Your cash flow. Cash flow is what we're talking about. Ultimately, that's the oxygen to your financial freedom, is figuring out how much cash flow you could get on your investments, and that means passive as well. A lot of people are moving towards the Airbnb or the vacation rentals. This is another way for you to take your rental income and hike it up a lot. Things that you want to look for when doing that, you want to look for the demand in your area. Is it an area where people are currently doing vacation rentals? Is there demand for it? Make sure the market actually is there before you try to create it. As far as if you go to flip the property, we go back to the numbers. I'm always going to come back to the numbers. What does it look like for you to flip that house and what's the profit on it? If that profit is good enough, what I like to do is take the profit from a fix and flip and I'll use it on a long-term hold where I could get my margins much wider than a traditional fix and flip. This again, you have to do the numbers, you have to understand where you're at and do the evaluation and the calculations to determine what's best for you. Let's talk about passive versus active income. Passive income is more of a set it and forget it. This is what we call rental or mailbox money. That's where people are paying you to live in your place, paying your mortgage off every single month. I love these type of assets because literally someone's paying you. Think about it like you will essentially have an employee that you don't have to manage. They're coming and paying you and you're making money every single month. Versus the active income. Active income is if you're constantly doing fix and flips. This is active. You are working to create that profit. I call that a job. That's what we are. We're creating a job for ourselves to create enough money to where we should and need to deploy it into assets that pay us monthly. You need to figure out what that balance is. Some people do 2 or 3 fix and flips and then take a profit from those and buy a long-term hold. This is something that you're going to have to look at. Are you investing in your current market or are you going into a different market to invest in those assets? What asset class are you also investing in? These are key things to ask yourself. Are you going into residential or are you going into commercial to deploy those profits? Something to think about. You have options. Commercial is a great one as well. Before I get into the pros and cons of holding or flipping, I want you to do me a favor. Click on the link below to subscribe because we're going to be delivering this kind of content to you daily. Pros and cons. If you look at and you want to do a quick fix and flip, gosh, it's hard to say no to that money that you guys are getting. Those could be big profits. The con though is that you're trying to build a long-term future in this in a residual income. So you have to evaluate these things correctly. Another pro or con is, let's just say you do a fix and flip, you have high capital gains. Those are things a lot of people don't look into or take into account. They just see that check that they're getting when the deal's all done. Now they have that money. Look, you got to set a big portion of that aside to pay your taxes. So it's something else to think about when you're doing fix and flips. There hasn't been a time ever where I think or look back and say, gosh, I'm sure glad I sold that property. I wish I had every property I ever bought to this day. It's all about the cash flow and appreciation. If you think about this, we're constantly in a state of inflation. So buying assets that can maintain that inflation, real estate is one of the best assets you could get. It helps you hedge against inflation. That means if you're getting $1,000 today and rents are $2,500 in 15 years, your income adjusts accordingly. Those rents adjust accordingly. Something to think about. It's a short-term sacrifice today to not take those gains for a long-term payout tomorrow. So that's one of the pros of holding a property long-term is the residual income, the appreciation, all these things you get to participate in, and you're avoiding those taxes right now. One of the cons about holding a property are the things that people just don't talk about. How about vacancies? What if someone's in your property not paying rent? What do you do about things like that? Some of the cons about holding, it depends on how you manage your property. You could be hiring a management company to do it. They're going to take a portion of it. Guess what else could happen? Someone could stop paying rent. You could also have vacancies. These are things you need to factor into the holds. You also have legal issues or can have legal issues. If you've talked to any investor, they've all had these type of issues, maybe even more. But guess what? They're still investing. The key is having enough of them to where if one happens, it's okay. If you only have one property and that happens, kind of a big deal. So grow your portfolio as fast as possible and avoid these problems. One of the things also that you're gonna wanna pay attention to, if it's a fix and flip versus a buy and hold, guess what's different? What you put into the house. One of them's meant to and designed to sell quickly. The other's more resilient and is going to withstand it's a rental, essentially. You want it to be more resilient. You want it to be able to take a little bit of punishment. These houses, your houses get used, okay? We call them touch points. How many people are touching everything? With that comes breakage. You have to manage for that and have a reserve account for it. So make sure that your margins are there, that your house is cash flowing accordingly to where you could put money away for a rainy day in case you have an HVAC issue, or maybe it's just a simple vacancy issue. Maybe it is a tight cash flow from a rental standpoint, and maybe there's bigger payouts if you were to flip it. I'll take the bigger payout in that scenario and go put it into an asset that actually is gonna pay me a bigger dividend, meaning it spits out more cash flow for that same profit margin. You have to take a look at these things. Also, during different market cycles, you may sell an asset to rebuy another asset that's gonna produce more for you. I'll give you an example. What I'll do, for example, is I'll take a condo or a house that maybe is appreciating a lot, and maybe the commercial is not. Here's the example. We would sell condos for around $150,000, ones that we bought for $50,000. Okay, so there's $100,000 in equity. Our rents didn't really move that much. So, we have all this extra equity, but it's really not producing anything extra. We would go and sell that, deploy the money back into a commercial asset, and we would be able to get about 3 times the amount of rent that we were getting from that residential asset. You want to watch what's going on in the marketplace to determine what is the best area and best assets to invest in. The key in all this is you got to buy the property right. And how do you do that? You got to be resourceful. In today's age, competition is fierce. You want to be able to find deals that nobody else is. How do you do that? Click on the link below. For free, we have 100 different ways for you to find off-market deals. Don't wait. Click on the link below.